Ryo gasped as ice-cold water drenched him, sharking him awake. His body jerked involuntarily, his mind still trapped somewhere between unconsciousness and a pounding hangover. His head throbbed, the dull ache in his skull reminding him of the last thing he remembered, the warmth of her hand, laughter, and a beautiful woman smashing his face into another man's. Another splash hit him, and this time he managed to open his eyes. He was sitting on a hard, wet stone floor, the scent of damp concrete and sweat filling his nostrils. The walls were made of thick iron bars, a jail cell. Ryo groaned, pushing himself up, his muscles stiff from the awkward position he had been lying in. Next to him, Rich was sputtering and cursing. By the burning guards, what the hell was that for? Do you have any idea who I am? The guards did not even flinch. A large, grim-faced man stood outside the cell, arms crossed over his thick chest. His uniform was crisp, his expression unreadable. A few other guards stood behind him, looking equally unimpressed. "You two have been charged," the officer announced, his voice deep and authoritative, cutting through the haze still clinging to Ryo's mind. "Charged," Ryo croaked, his throat raw. The officer ignored him and continued, reading off a list: public intoxication, public disturbance, fighting, and the unlawful display of a war talent in a public area. Ryo blinked, still groggy, trying to piece everything together. Rich, on the other hand, was already on his feet, gripping the bars. "Bullshit, I was not fighting, that was just an enthusiastic disagreement." The officer gave him a deadpan stare. "We have witnesses. If you wish to contest these charges, you may do so in a court of law," the man stated matter-of-factly. "But be advised, if you fight these charges, you will be facing jail time." Ryo's blood ran cold. Jail, Rich stiffened. Wait, actual jail time. His bravado faltered for just a second before he turned and jabbed a finger at Ryo. "This is all his fault. He's the one who got all weird about my fire fists after trying to put his little Pepe where it did not belong." Ryo barely heard him. He was still processing everything, still feeling the chill of the water, the ache in his head, the slow, sinking realization of how badly this night had gone. Officer sighed and leaned forward slightly, his gaze steady. "If you plead guilty," he said, his voice deliberate, "you will be interned into your Majesty's armed forces. Your sentence will be suspended, pending satisfactory service for the next 2 years." Silence. Ryo and Rich turned to look at each other. Ryo's mind whirled. The armed forces. That was no minor punishment. It was active duty. Soldiers, enforcers, people who fought in real battles, wielding real power. Rich, however, scoffed. "Oh, come on, look at him. He does not even have a talent. Look at those flabby arms and a bird-cage chest." He jabbed a thumb at Ryo, shaking his head. "What is he going to do? Talk our enemies to death? Make them laugh so I can kill them?" The officer did not respond. Instead, his eyes locked onto Ryo, and then he saw it. For a split second, the air around Ryo shimmered. A faint, almost imperceptible glow radiated from his body. A white aura, pulsing, shifting like light through fog. It was not fire, it was not lightning, but it was something. Rich noticed the officer's expression change. What is with that look?" The man straightened and turned back to him. "I think he will be fine." Rich gawked between them, his mouth opening and closing. "Wait, what?" The officer pulled a small clipboard from his belt, flipping to a form. He extended it toward the two young men, his tone completely indifferent. "Sign your papers," he instructed. Ryo stared at the form, his mind still reeling. Rich grumbled under his breath but took the pen first, scrawling his name. "This is bullshit. I am too pretty for this life." The officer did not react. Ryo took the pen next. His fingers felt stiff, his breath unsteady, but something inside him clicked into place. He did not have a choice. With slow, deliberate movements, he signed his name. The officer did not so much as glance at the paper before snatching it back, tucking the clipboard under his arm. He turned to the next cell. Without missing a beat, he called out, "Next." Ryo sat slouched in a chair, rubbing his temples as the last remnants of his hangover clung to his skull. Next to him, Rich was sprawled out with his arms crossed, looking as unimpressed as humanly possible. Across from them, at a heavy wooden desk, sat the most exhausted-looking officer Ryo had ever seen. The man was middle-aged, his uniform neat, but his tie slightly crooked, as if he had given up on life about 7 years ago, but was still contractually obligated to be here. His name tag read Officer Baines. He flipped through a thick, beaten-up intake form and sighed heavily before clicking his pen. All right, let us get this over with. Ryo smirked. Wow, you really know how to make a guy feel welcome. Baines shot him a look that screamed, I do not get paid enough for this, before tapping the form. Before Baines could begin, Rich sniffed the air, wrinkled his nose, and gagged. Ugh, guards, this place smells like vomit and urine. Ryo turned his head slightly and sniffed himself. His stomach turned. That is us, man. Rich recoiled. No way. Baines, still not looking up, muttered, Oh, definitely you. Rich groaned and wiped his hands on his pants. Man, this is not how I imagined my night ending. Baines finally glanced up. And yet here you are. He clicked his pen and went back to his form. Name, Ryo, first of his name, Slayer of Beers, soon to be commander of the Just Your Damn Name Kid. Ryo huffed. Ryo Takahashi. Baines scribbled something down. Age, old enough to know better, but young enough to still make poor life choices. Baines did not even look up. So 19, got it. Rich leaned in, smirking. Wait, are we actually 19? I kinda lost track. Baines exhaled sharply through his nose. Moving on, previous occupation, Ryo shrugged. Professional disappointment. Baines paused, briefly looked up, then with complete deadpan wrote something down. Unemployed, got it. Rich snorted. Damn, that was cold, man. Baines jotted something down before turning to Rich. And you? Rich sat up straighter, puffing out his chest. Rich, just Rich. Baines stared at him for a long moment. You got a last name, just Rich? Rich hesitated. Maybe. Baines sighed, clearly deciding this was not worth his energy. Age. Rich furrowed his brow as if this was a trick question. He counted on his fingers. Ooh, 19. You do not know how old you are. Rich shrugged. I mean, my birthday is kinda a flexible concept, you know. Depends on who is asking. Baines pinched the bridge of his nose. Moving on, he flipped to a different section. Magical abilities. Ryo quickly stated, No, none. Rich interjected, He glows a little. Ryo clicked his tongue. Damn, well in that case I guess I glow. Baines paused mid-scribble. You guess you glow. It is new. I just started tonight. Baines sighed again and made a note before turning to Rich. And you? Rich grinned. Fire Fists, baby, premium edition. Baines nodded, jotting it down. Any additional skills? Rich leaned forward and spoke introspectively. I make my mother cry a lot, and I make girls laugh by accident. Ryu quickly interjected, Me too. Baines did not write that down. Any criminal record prior to this? Ryo shook his head. First time in jail, so blessed to be here, by the way. Rich raised a finger. Okay, so technically I have been arrested before. Baines tensed. For what? Rich grinned. Nothing that could ever be proven. Baines stared at him, his pen hovering over the paper before slowly writing. Likely guilty of something. All right. Baines muttered, flipping to the last page. Final question. Do you have any medical conditions or physical limitations we should be aware of? Ryo stretched. Well, I am allergic to, do not care. Baines cut him off. Ryo blinked. Wow. Rich smirked. This guy gets me. Baines clapped the clipboard shut and stood up. Congratulations, gentlemen. You are now officially being sent to boot camp. If you somehow survive the next 2 years, I will personally write you a certificate of stupidity. Rich perked up, raising a hand. Wait. Important question. This boot camp, is it co-ed? Baines arched his brow. Of course. Are you not girls? Rich gasped and started to touch his private areas. Am I a girl? Baines ignored him. Go to the next room for uniform fittings and... He sighed deeply. May the gods have mercy on us all. As Ryo and Rich stepped out, Rich elbowed Ryo. Dude, I love this place already. Ryo groaned. We are so screwed. Rich looked back at Baines, then back at Ryo. His expression was weirdly serious. You know what, man? I think I want to be like that guy one day. Ryo nearly tripped. What? Yeah. Rich nodded. Dude has got it all. Authority, the ability to insult people without getting punched in the face, and that level of pure I do not care energy. That is power, man. That is my hero. Ryo stared at him. You are setting the bar real low for your life goals. Rich smirked. Nah, man, I am setting it real high. And with that, they marched off toward their next inevitable disaster.